All right, welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're taking on a creature that's, well, kind of blown my mind since I started researching it.
Oh, I know what you mean. They're incredible.
Yeah, the Ornithokentauros.
It's a name that doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but
No, not really, but once you wrap your head around what it is, ooh.
you start to get a glimpse of, just how much imagination went into these ancient myths.
Absolutely. Okay, so for anyone tuning in who's not familiar, we're talking centaurs, but not your average centaur.
Right, we're ditching the human torso and going full-on bird-human hybrid for the upper half.
Yeah. Massive wings, feathered arms and face. Imagine a wingspan of up to 20 feet. And get this. The sources say their feathers actually change color with their mood.
It's like a living mood ring, darker hues for camouflage and tranquility, and then, bam, vibrant reds and golds when they're alert or even aggressive. Can you picture that? Like soaring through a mountain range?
Oh, I can totally picture it. The sun setting, casting those long shadows, and then this flash of color as an Ornithokentauros cuts across the sky, its feathers catching the light.
Exactly. It's breathtaking and terrifying all at the same time.
Okay, so we've got descriptions, myths, stories, even combat strategies from those who supposedly face these creatures.
There's a lot to unpack here. Their anatomy alone is fascinating. Did you know they have hollow bones, like birds, but they're reinforced with extra calcium for strength?
It's like nature's version of a high-tech glider. Lightweight, but super durable.
And then there's their shoulder structure, a single joint that somehow manages to support those powerful wings and these incredibly dexterous hands.
That's like ours.
Similar, but with claws. Perfect for grabbing prey or, scaling sheer cliff faces.
Wow, talk about a grip strength test. So they can fly, they've got these powerful claws, and let's not forget those legs. Pure horsepower, ending in cloven hooves.
Built for both speed and stability. Imagine the thunder as they charge across the land, then launch themselves into the air.
Oh, I can hear it now. But their flight, it's not constant flapping, right?
No, it's much more about gliding. They use thermals to soar effortlessly, kind of like a hang glider.
So efficient. Those powerful wing muscles are all about endurance, covering vast distances.
Exactly. They've mastered the art of harnessing the wind. And speaking of mastery, their fur and feathers aren't just for show, they're crucial for survival.
Insulation, camouflage, right.
Of course, but there's more. Some of their feathers are incredibly sensitive, like whiskers.
What? Feathers like whiskers?
Yeah, they help them sense even the slightest shifts in air currents.
So they can basically feel the air around them. That's amazing.
It's like a sixth sense, helping them navigate those tricky mountain ranges and forests where they make their homes.
It's clear these creatures are perfectly adapted to their environment. But there's another side to them, isn't there? Something beyond just the physical.
Oh, absolutely. The sources make it pretty clear. These are solitary creatures, fiercely protective of their chosen territory.
You don't want to mess with them, basically.
Let's just say disrespect their domain, and you might regret it.
So not exactly hostile to humans, but don't push your luck.
Right. But what I find truly fascinating is their diet. They're omnivores, adaptable, resourceful. Berries, roots, herbs.
You know, the usual nature buffet stuff.
Exactly. But here's where it gets weird. They also eat rocks.
Wait, rocks? You're kidding, right?
No, seriously. Like birds use grit to help grind down food, the Ornithokentauros uses small stones for the same purpose.
That's unexpected.
Right. Even something as simple as their diet reveals how deeply connected they are to the natural world. They use what's available, no matter how unconventional it might seem to us.
Okay, I am officially intrigued. We've got their looks, their amazing adaptations, and now a diet that includes rocks. What else can we learn about these incredible creatures?
Okay, so we've covered their appearance, their superpowered adaptations, and even their rock-eating habits.
Which, let's be honest, is pretty cool. Oh yeah, definitely adds to the whole mysterious creature vibe. But what about their behavior? The sources hint at something beyond just, basic animal instincts.
Right. There are these recurring themes of intelligence, observation, even strategic thinking.
Hold on, strategic thinking. We're talking about a creature that's part bird, part horse, part human. Are you saying they're, planning things out?
Well, some accounts even describe them reading the stars.
Reading the stars. Okay, now I'm really curious. What does that even mean? Are they predicting weather patterns, navigating by constellations?
It's not entirely clear, but there's this sense that they have a deeper understanding of the cosmos. Maybe even some form of celestial knowledge that we've lost touch with.
All right, now we're getting into some serious myth and legend territory. And speaking of myths, there's one that really stood out to me about Mount Ciderus. Have you heard of it? This mythical peak, always shrouded in mist, said to hold a Gift of the stars.
Ah, yes, the gift of the stars. A treasure, a
Yeah.
vision. The sources are vague, but it's clearly something highly sought after.
And guarded, right,
Yeah.
by an Ornithokentauros. But here's the catch. It doesn't just attack anyone who comes near. It challenges them with a riddle.
Not a riddle to test your cleverness, though. It's a test of character.
Oh, interesting. So it's not about being smart, it's about proving you're worthy.
Exactly. Integrity, empathy, selflessness. Those are the qualities that grant you passage to the summit.
I love that. It's like they're guardians, not just of a physical place, but of some deeper wisdom.
Right. It's not about brute force or trickery. It's about inner strength, about aligning yourself with a, higher purpose.
And then there's the tale of Elios, the Ornithokentauros, who formed a bond with a lost human prince. He guides the prince back to his kingdom, but not without asking for something in return. A promise to protect the wild lands surrounding the kingdom.
It's a story about coexistence, about recognizing that humans aren't the only ones with a claim to this world.
And that we have a responsibility to protect the balance of nature.
Exactly. It's a message that's more relevant than ever today, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But what happens when that respect is broken?
Yeah.
When we encounter an Ornithokentauros not as a benevolent guy, but as a terrifying opponent?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And to be honest, facing an Ornithokentauros in attack mode would be, well, terrifying is an understatement.
Yo kidding. But thankfully, some of our sources offer insights into combat strategies for those unfortunate enough to find themselves in that situation.
Let's be clear, though. Direct confrontation is a last resort and not advisable. You're dealing with a creature that can outmaneuver you on land A and D in the air.
Yeah, good point. So if you absolutely have to fight one, outsmart it.
Brute force is, frankly, a terrible idea. They're incredibly strong and agile. The key is to exploit their weaknesses while maximizing your own advantages.
Okay, so what are their weaknesses?
Well, the sources mention one vulnerability in particular, fire.
Fire, really? But they have feathers. Wouldn't that be, a disaster?
Exactly. Their wings are highly susceptible to flames. And fire also disrupts their camouflage and that keen sense of smell they rely on.
So fire as a deterrent to create distance and disrupt their senses. Got it. But what about actually defending yourself? What kind of tactics would even work against a creature that can fly, gallop, and potentially outsmart you?
Their wings, while a huge asset, are also a potential weakness. If you can ground them, you significantly reduce their advantage. Nets, bolas, anything to tangle them up.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about weapons? Swords, spears, would those even be effective against, feathers and fur?
Ranged weapons are definitely your best bet. Arrows, javelins, anything to target those wings from a distance and bring them down.
I can see how that would be crucial. Make them fight on your terms, not theirs. But wouldn't you need incredible precision to actually hit those wings, especially with something like an arrow?
You're not wrong. And remember, they have hollow bones, beneficial for flight, but also more susceptible to breakage.
Right, so aim for those joints, those vulnerable points. But what about the environment itself? Could that play a role in a potential fight?
Absolutely. Terrain can be your ally. Think strategically. High ground, narrow passages, dense foliage, anything to limit their maneuverability.
Force them into tight spaces where their size and speed become a disadvantage. Smart. Are there any other tactics, maybe something less conventional that might work against them?
Interestingly, some sources suggest that loud, disorienting noises can be effective. Their hearing is incredibly acute, so drums, horns, even shouting might disrupt their focus.
It's like a psychological attack, playing on their senses to throw them off balance.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got fire, ranged weapons, terrain advantages, and even sensory overload, but honestly, all of this sounds incredibly dangerous and risky.
It is, yeah. And that brings us back to what we talked about earlier. Like, the best way to deal with an Ornithokentauros is to not have to deal with them at all.
Exactly. Avoid conflict if at all possible. Respect their territory, approach with caution, don't give them a reason to see you as a threat.
Right, because the legends are full of examples of humans earning their trust, even forming, alliances, right?
It's true. Show them respect, acknowledge their role as guardians of the wild, and they might become a powerful ally instead of a fearsome enemy.
It really all comes back to that idea of respect, doesn't it? Recognizing their power, their connection to nature. It's a good reminder that we're not the only intelligent beings on this planet, and, our actions, they have consequences.
Yeah. The Ornithokentauros, in a way, it embodies that delicate balance between humanity and the natural world.
It's like a mirror, reflecting our own potential for both destruction and harmony.
We can choose to exploit and dominate, or we can learn to coexist, you know, respect boundaries, maybe even learn from these creatures.
It makes you wonder, what would they tell us if they could speak? Like, if we could truly understand their perspective, what kind of insights would they offer about our relationship with the planet?
That's a really interesting question. Imagine, just for a moment, that the Ornithokentauros could share its wisdom directly. What would it say about how we treat the environment?
What lessons would it teach us about living in balance with nature, right?
Exactly.
It's a pretty powerful thought, you know? Makes you realize these myths and legends, they're not just stories, they're reflections of our fears, hopes, and maybe our responsibilities too.
I think so. The Ornithokentauros is more than just like a monster,
Yeah.
It's a symbol.
Of our own potential, for both good and bad.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about, that's for sure.
Me too. From their anatomy to the myths, even
Thank you.
those combat strategies, the Ornithokentauros has definitely left an impression.
Definitely. And maybe that's the whole point of exploring these mythical creatures, you know?
It sparks our curiosity.
Yeah. And challenges how we see the world. Reminds us that there's still, wonder and mystery out there. So until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep that sense of wonder alive.